Welcome back to another video. My name is Sebastian Rositsky, and on this one, let's talk about a great way to learn how to change chords. Shift chords? Chord shifts? Let's just talk about how to get from one chord to another. All right, so most beginners, when they learn how to play chords on the guitar, they can play your basic chords from the open position. So your E minor, C major, D minor, whatever the case is. But sometimes a lot of beginner players have a hard time getting from one chord to another. Now, I kind of came up with this 3-step system that I use whenever I'm having a hard time shifting from one chord to another. Now, this can work from your most basic chord progression, so something in the open positions, to a really complex chord that's somewhere in the middle of the fretboard. Going from one chord to another can be pretty difficult, even for experienced players, because some music, there's just some weird chords out there. All right, so for the sake of this video, let's work on 2 different chords and start with the open position. So let's take D minor and E minor, for example. I don't know why I chose those chords. So if we're gonna start on the open position, we're gonna play your standard D minor chord and then your standard open position E minor chord. All right, so step number 1 is to practice shifting from one chord to the other really slow to get the muscle memory going. So make the shape of the D minor chord, and then slowly, as you're shifting to the E minor chord, your fingers are slowly making that E minor shape. So you're gonna wanna practice going from D minor to E minor and then back to D minor, and just practice the movement really slow, and just go slowly back and forth, making sure that your fingers are learning that muscle memory. And after you feel comfortable making that transition, it's time to move on to step 2. And this one's kind of weird, but bear with me. So again, start on that D minor chord, put pressure as if you were going to strum that chord, and now release the pressure off the strings, but still keeping your fingers on those strings. And then as quickly as you can, shift over to the next chord, which is in this case E minor, and just have your fingers on top of the strings, not putting any pressure on them at all. And then finally, put the pressure on, and then release that pressure, and then quickly shift back to that D minor chord. And then keep that cycle going. So put pressure on the D minor chord, release the pressure, just leaving your fingers on the strings. Then as quickly as you can, shift over to the E minor chord and then put pressure, and keep this going over and over again. Now, I found that this releasing pressure and then shifting really quickly technique can really help you. Not to make those squeaks on the strings that can happen whenever you're shifting to certain chords. Now, I found that this kind of helped my students preventing this squeak, because it actually forces you to lift off the chord and then shift, versus shifting while you're having pressure on the strings, which can cause you those squeak sounds. And just keep putting that into that cycle until you get comfortable, and then you can move on to step 3, which is really just shift as quickly as you possibly can to the next chord. So make that D minor chord, put pressure this time as if normal, and then quickly shift over to the next chord. Now, if you're not shifting really fast at this point, that's okay. Just shift as fast as you possibly can to be able to shift cleanly and not making any sounds. Now, you can also use this whenever you're shifting to a chord that's, I don't know, like a bar chord or something like that. So let's take that same chord progression. Let's go with that D minor chord. We'll play that one in open position, and then we'll play the E minor chord in 7th position. So this technique can also work with that. So notice how there's also a greater distance from one chord to another versus both chords being open position. So it can be a little bit more difficult, but the same process can be applied. Slowly make sure that you're getting your muscle memory going by shifting from one chord to the next really slowly and making that same shape. Now, with this example, you'll probably have a better visual to see my fingers making that shape of the next chord. So if I'm playing the D minor chord in open position, and I'm going to shift to the E minor chord in 7th position, you can see that my fingers are taking the shape of that E minor chord as I get closer and closer to it. This can be really frustrating and really like mentally draining, but keep at it and make sure that you're getting your muscle memory going so you can practice shifting those chords. And then, of course, once you're done with step 1 with the muscle memory, move on to step 2, which is going to be lifting pressure off the strings, shifting very quickly, and then applying pressure. And then, of course, the third step is to just shift as fast as you can. Now, if you're shifting slower than you were whenever you're playing the open chords, it might take a little longer to shift between these two chords, going from an open position to 7th position. But after a while, it'll get easier and easier as you work on it. A while back, I made a video about shifting. So going from that open position to 7th position smoothly, which kind of goes hand in hand with this video. So I'll link it down below so you can check it out. I love to hear about how you practice your chord shifts or chord transitions to make them as smooth as possible. Well, that's it for me. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I have all my links down in the description below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.